Every night, when the world finally quiets down, that's when the noise inside our heads often gets the loudest. We've all been there, lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, trapped in a relentless loop of thoughts about what we did wrong today and what tomorrow might bring. It's exhausting, isn't it? Overthinking feels like running a mental marathon with no finish line. It's an itch you can't scratch, stealing your peace both during sleepless nights and in the bright light of day. But what if I told you there's a way to quiet those noisy thoughts? Today, we dive deep into the wisdom of Stoicism, an ancient philosophy that's as practical today as it was thousands of years ago. This isn't just about dusty historical concepts, it's about real tools that can help us lead calmer, more focused lives. If you're tired of your mind spinning out of control, stick with me. Let's explore how these age-old strategies can bring us peace and clarity in our chaotic world. Every moment of this journey is packed with valuable insights that can help you quiet the noise in your mind. Lesson 1. Prioritize action over endless thought. We've all experienced it, those moments when you're just sitting there, your mind racing with a million what-ifs and maybes, only to realize that hours have slipped by and you've gotten nowhere. That's what overthinking does. It traps you in a cycle of analysis paralysis, where you're so caught up in thinking that you never actually do anything. Stoicism offers a powerful antidote to this mental trap. Prioritize action over endless contemplation. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher and Roman emperor, captured this idea perfectly when he said, "The secret of all victory lies in the organization of the non-obvious." For Marcus, it wasn't enough to simply think things through. He believed in taking decisive action that made a real impact. How do we apply this in our lives? It starts with recognizing that action inherently moves us forward, while overthinking often spirals us into stagnation. Have you ever noticed how, when you finally take a step, any step, it feels like a weight lifts off your shoulders? That's because action is liberating. It breaks the chains of procrastination and self-doubt. Let me share a personal story. I once had an idea for a project that I was excited about. I spent weeks thinking about it, planning every detail in my head, but guess what? It never went anywhere because I was too caught up in trying to make it perfect. I was stuck in analysis paralysis. The moment I started to take action, even small actions like jotting down some notes or discussing the idea with a friend, things began to shift. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. The Stoics believed that while we can control our actions, we can't always control the outcomes. By focusing on what we can do right now, we reduce the overwhelming burden of trying to control every possible future scenario, something that, let's face it, is impossible. Every step you take teaches you something new, brings new insights and sometimes new challenges, but always movement. Action also feeds confidence. Each time you act, you prove to yourself that you can move beyond your fears. You build momentum, and suddenly, what seemed impossible starts to look achievable. Remember, in Stoicism, there's a lot of talk about living according to nature, and it's only natural to learn and grow from what we do, not just from what we think. So, what small action can you take today? Maybe it's making that phone call you've been putting off, sending an email, or just organizing your workspace. It doesn't have to be a giant leap. Tiny steps are still steps forward. The key is to keep moving. Don't let your thoughts hold you back. As Seneca said, it is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that they are difficult. By embracing the Stoic value of action over analysis, we empower ourselves to live more fully, more bravely, and with a clear sense of direction. Lesson 2. Realize you're not that special, and that's liberating. One of the biggest drivers of overthinking is the fear of what others will think. We hesitate, second-guess, and replay scenarios in our minds, all because we're worried about how we'll be perceived. But here's a Stoic wake-up call: you're not the center of the universe. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself of this truth, writing in his meditations, "You could leave life right now." Let that determine what you do and say and think. He was reminding himself, and us, that the world doesn't revolve around our actions as much as we believe it does. Why is realizing you're not that special actually a good thing? It's about understanding that most people are far too busy dealing with their own lives to be overly concerned with what you're doing. This is a game changer when you grasp it fully, because it means you can stop overthinking how you're perceived. Have you ever hesitated to post something online because you were worried about what people would think? Or maybe you've been afraid to start a new project or go after a job because you're scared of criticism or failure, believing everyone will notice and judge you. Here's the truth. Most people won't even remember it a few days later. They're too busy navigating their own challenges. This doesn't mean your actions don't matter or that you shouldn't strive to do your best. But it does mean that you can breathe a little easier, knowing that one mistake is not going to be the focal point of everyone's attention. This concept helps to strip away the facade that everyone is watching and judging our every move, a common trap that feeds overthinking and anxiety. It's freeing, isn't it? To realize that you can go about your life, make your choices, and even slip up now and then, and the world won't come crashing down. You get to experiment, to learn, and to live without the heavy weight of perceived constant scrutiny. Stoicism helps us nail this concept down by teaching humility and the importance of focusing on self-improvement for its own sake, not for applause or fear of criticism. Marcus Aurelius believed in leading a life of virtue and being true to oneself, not living for external validation. So, the next time you find yourself overthinking how others might perceive your actions, remember this lesson. You're not that special in the eyes of the world, and that's a good thing. It means you are free to live your life more fully, authentically, and without undue concern over every little judgment. Lesson 3. Stop comparing yourself to others. When we constantly compare ourselves to others, whether it's their successes, their looks, or even their social media posts, we set ourselves up for unhappiness. It's like measuring your life's worth against a yardstick that keeps changing, depending on whom you're comparing yourself to at the moment. The Stoics were big on focusing on what's within our control and other people's lives, definitely not within our control. Epictetus famously said, "Focus on what you can control and let go of what you cannot." When you spend your energy focusing on others, you're wasting that precious resource, your focus, on what you cannot change or influence. Imagine you're having a really good day. You're feeling proud of what you've accomplished, whether it's big or small. Then you hop on Instagram or Facebook, and suddenly you see someone else's highlight reel. Vacations, perfect homes, achievements. Suddenly your own victories don't feel quite so significant anymore. That's the trap of comparison. What the Stoics teach us is to anchor our self-worth in our own values and progress, not in comparison to others. This isn't just about feeling better. It's about a fundamental shift in how we view success and happiness. It's about internal validation rather than external. When you live by this principle, you shift your perspective from competition to personal growth. It's liberating, really. When you stop comparing, you start appreciating your own journey, with all its ups and downs. You begin to see your life as a unique path, not a race against someone else's milestones. This mindset allows you to celebrate your own successes without the shadow of someone else's achievements dimming your light. If you can train yourself to shift your thinking from comparison to self-reflection, you'll find that joy comes more naturally. You'll start to recognize the blessings in your own life without feeling the need to stack them up against anyone else's. So the next time you catch yourself falling into the comparison trap, take a step back and remind yourself that your value is not defined by how you stack up against others, but by how you live according to your own principles and efforts. Redirect that energy back to your personal goals and growth. Trust me, this is a game changer in conquering overthinking and truly finding happiness in your own unique journey. Lesson 4. Let go of the myth of perfection. The pursuit of perfection can be a relentless drive that ironically leads not to more success, but to increased dissatisfaction and paralysis. When we set unattainable standards for ourselves, Every small mistake or setback can feel like a catastrophic failure. It's a recipe for constant stress and chronic overthinking. The Stoic philosophers really understood this. They taught us that striving for perfection in the traditional sense, flawless and complete, is not only unrealistic but also unnecessary. Seneca put it this way: "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." He was getting at the idea that our pursuit of an imagined state of perfection causes us much more distress than the actual imperfections of life. Think about that for a second. How often have you agonized over getting something just right, only to realize that the effort was causing you more anxiety than the results warranted? Stoicism invites us to embrace imperfection not as a flaw, but as a fundamental part of being human. By accepting that we are inherently imperfect, we can free ourselves from the impossible expectations that bind us and cause endless cycles of overthinking. This doesn't mean we shouldn't try to improve or grow. Quite the opposite. It means that we recognize improvement as a process, one that is ongoing and filled with lessons learned from mistakes. Imagine if you could approach a new project or a new skill with the mindset that mistakes are not only expected, but are actually valuable. How much more willing would you be to start something new, to innovate, and to take risks? This is the freedom that rejecting the myth of perfection offers. The Stoic approach teaches us that every imperfection is an opportunity to learn. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." He's telling us that the obstacles, the imperfections, and the setbacks are not just hurdles to overcome. They are integral parts of the journey that push us to grow and improve. So as we move forward, let's try to shift our focus. Instead of aiming for perfection, let's aim for progress. Let's celebrate the small victories and the big ones, knowing that each step forward is valuable. Let's learn to see the beauty in the imperfect, because it is the imperfections that make our experiences rich and our lives genuinely authentic. Let go of the myth of perfection, and you'll find that you're not just reducing overthinking, you're also opening up a whole new world of possibilities where growth is a joy, not a burden. Lesson 5. Manage your emotions. Don't let them manage you. It's easy to get swept away by our feelings, but it's crucial to remember that our emotional responses don't always represent the truth of our situations. Stoicism teaches us that emotions, while a natural part of our human experience, should not dictate our decisions or our perceptions of reality. This idea is rooted deeply in the teachings of the Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, who advised us to take a step back and examine our impressions, asking ourselves if they are based on fact or if we are letting our emotions color our judgment. He famously said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Think about the last time you felt overwhelmed by emotion. Maybe you were anxious about a big meeting or upset over a disagreement with a friend. In those moments, our emotions can feel all-consuming, as if they define our entire reality. But here's the thing, emotions are transient. They come and go, and they can deceive us into overestimating the significance of what we're feeling in the moment. This Stoic lesson isn't about suppressing your emotions. Rather, it's about not letting them control you. It's about achieving a level of detachment where you can acknowledge your feelings without letting them cloud your judgment. This is what the Stoics mean when they talk about living a life of virtue. It's about responding to life's challenges with reason rather than being led by emotion. Let's say you're feeling really down because you didn't get a job you interviewed for. The initial emotional response might be to think you're not good enough or that you'll never find a job you love. But if you take a moment to step back and apply reason, you might see that this rejection could be an opportunity to explore other options or areas for improvement in your interviewing skills. By not letting your initial emotions dictate your reality, you open yourself up to more constructive and proactive paths. Practicing this can start simply. The next time you find yourself getting emotionally charged, take a breath and ask yourself, is my reaction based on reality or my interpretation of the situation. Is there another way to view this? Often, just taking this moment can prevent you from spiraling into negative overthinking and help you approach situations more rationally. Epictetus taught that it's not the events themselves that disturb us, but our view of them. By changing our perspective and questioning the validity of our emotional responses, we can change how we experience life's ups and downs. This doesn't mean ignoring our feelings. It means managing them in a way that allows us to respond with wisdom and clarity. Lesson 6. Detach from outcomes. Much of our distress comes from clinging too tightly to outcomes we can't control. The Stoics teach us that while we can influence outcomes, we can't control them entirely. Epictetus famously said, "Some things are in our control and others are not." This simple truth is at the heart of Stoic calm and resilience. Think about when you work on a project or strive toward a personal goal. If you're solely focused on the outcome, every minor setback can feel like a major disaster. This fixation can lead to constant stress and disappointment because, frankly, outcomes are often influenced by variables we can't predict or manage. But what if you shifted your focus from the outcome to the effort itself? Imagine the freedom and satisfaction in knowing that your self-worth isn't tied up in the results of your actions, but in the quality and intention behind them. This is what it means to detach from outcomes. It's not about not caring about results. It's about not being defined by them. Let's apply this to something relatable, like starting a new diet or fitness routine. If you fixate solely on losing a specific amount of weight within a certain time, you're setting yourself up for frustration and potential failure. Instead, if you focus on developing healthier eating habits or enjoying your workouts, you shift the focus to the process. You start to appreciate the daily improvements in your energy and mood, things you can control. The weight loss then becomes a beneficial side effect, not the sole measure of your success. This Stoic approach helps build resilience. When outcomes aren't the end-all be-all, setbacks become less terrifying. They're just part of the journey, opportunities to learn and adjust. This mindset fosters more sustainable motivation because it's rooted in what you're doing right now, not in a distant, possibly elusive goal. Moreover, detaching from outcomes allows you to be more present and engaged in the task at hand. It enhances your performance because you're focused on the action, not distracted by anxiety over the results. This can lead to better outcomes, ironically enough, because you're operating from a place of engagement and authenticity, not fear and attachment. So as we go forward, let's try to put this into practice. Focus on your actions, on living according to your values, and doing your best in each moment. Trust that by doing this, the outcomes will take care of themselves, one way or another. Remember, as Marcus Aurelius said, just that you do the right thing, the rest doesn't matter. It's a freeing way to live, and it drastically cuts down on overthinking and unnecessary stress. Lesson 7. Embrace the present moment. It's easy to get caught up in regrets about the past or worries about the future, but Stoicism teaches us that the only real time we have control over is the present. Marcus Aurelius, a staunch advocate of this idea, wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." What he's telling us is simple yet deeply significant. The past is untouchable and the future is uncertain, but the present is where we live our lives. Think about how often your thoughts wander to what's been or what's coming. It could be dwelling on an argument you had last week, or fretting over an upcoming deadline. These thoughts aren't just distracting, they're draining. They pull you out of the here and now, reducing your ability to focus on what you're actually doing and diminishing your effectiveness and happiness. Embracing the present moment means actively focusing on what's happening right now. This doesn't imply that you ignore the lessons of the past or fail to plan for the future. Rather, it means that you don't let those considerations overpower your current experience. It's about balancing awareness, not letting one aspect overwhelmingly distract from another. Let's say you're spending time with a friend, but you're mentally rehearsing a work presentation for tomorrow. By not being fully present, you miss out on the richness of the interaction, and ironically, you're also not doing much good for your preparation, as scattered focus rarely leads to quality outcomes. But if you consciously choose to engage fully with your friend, you enrich that experience, and often you'll find that your mind is clearer and more prepared when it's time to focus on your work. Practicing presence can start with something as simple as mindful breathing. Whenever you find your mind darting back to the past or jumping ahead to the future, take a few deep breaths and look around. Notice the sights, the sounds, the smells. Feel the air on your skin, the ground beneath your feet. This isn't just about grounding yourself physically, it's about reminding yourself that life happens in the now. The Stoic practice of mindfulness and presence also encourages gratitude. When you're fully present, you're more likely to notice the small joys and victories that you might otherwise overlook. This can lead to a deeper appreciation for your life as it is, not as you think it should be, or fear it might become. So as we move forward, let's try to bring our attention back to the present whenever we find it straying. Remember, every moment spent worrying about the past or the future is a moment lost. The present is your reality, the stage on which you can act. Marcus Aurelius urged us to live with vigor and purpose in the present, not passively, but as active participants shaping our lives moment by moment. By embracing the present, we embrace life itself. We can handle stress better, enjoy our experiences more fully, and live with a sense of peace that comes from knowing we're truly living, not just existing. This is a powerful Stoic lesson that not only reduces overthinking, but enriches our entire existence. The wisdom of Stoicism offers powerful, actionable strategies to overcome overthinking and lead a more intentional, fulfilling life. By prioritizing action, letting go of comparisons, embracing imperfection, managing our emotions, detaching from outcomes, and focusing on the present, we can quiet the noise in our minds and find clarity. Thank you for joining me in this exploration of Stoic philosophy. Remember, each moment you choose to be present and intentional is a step toward a more fulfilling life. Continue engaging with Stoic teachings, live fully, think deeply, and let the wisdom of Stoicism guide you toward a calmer, clearer mind. Your journey to a more focused, peaceful existence starts now.